And joining me now is MSNBC legal analyst Neil Katyal, professor of law at Georgetown University and former acting Solicitor General, and Dave Aronberg, state attorney for Palm Beach County, Florida. Thank you both for being here. And I have to tell you, Neil, I'm incredibly cynical about this judge because, you know, we have friends like you, we have friends like Dave, and I can't think of anyone who takes seriously these motions that are before this judge. It seems like entertaining them at all is just a way to delay. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so Joy, I mean, look, federal judges can sometimes surprise, and that's unlike predictable politicians. And I think here many people's expectations for Judge Cannon were low, particularly because of her two rulings last year, appointing a special master, which was, to put it mildly, nuts, and was rebuked by the very conservative Court of Appeals that oversees her court really quickly with some really harsh language. So here, so far, Judge Cannon has done the right thing, rejecting one of Trump's motions, calling, as you said, the statute unconstitutionally vague, which is preposterous. But to me, the big concern is that Jack Smith today maybe won a battle, but he's losing the war. And I feel very much like it's just like the Supreme Court and absolute immunity. And the Supreme Court's agreed, as you said, to hear Donald Trump's absolute immunity case on April 25th. There is no chance that Trump is going to win and that the court is going to say he has absolute immunity. But what the Supreme Court did there is delay his trial for January 6 charges, potentially to after the election. And the same thing I fear is happening with Judge Cannon. She keeps kicking the can down the road. I mean, the fact that she had a day-long hearing today, Joy, on these two bogus issues tells you everything you need to know. I mean, the only thing that Donald Trump's arguments today warrant are an eye roll and a swift denial.
Yeah, I mean, and Dave, it's very hard, I think, at this point, given all of the politics from the Supreme Court on, not to view Aileen Cannon and also Mr. Hur, who, you know, clerked, I believe, for Judge Rehnquist at one point, Justice Rehnquist at one point, as auditioning, right? I mean, they're helping Donald Trump. He doesn't have like the most genius lawyers in the world. All they have to do is keep appealing and filing motions. And that's all it apparently takes to have justice delayed, which in a sense for the people of the United States and voters is justice denied.
Yeah, Joy, I agree with you and Neil that Trump can win by losing. He can lose all these hearings and still win because his strategy is to delay things, to delay this out. Trump is nervous about this particular charge because it is the strongest case against Donald Trump. The Espionage Act, obstruction, they've got him dead to rights. His only defense is that he somehow declassified the documents in his mind like some Jedi mind trick. It's preposterous. But if he can keep delaying it, he expects to be president again. Then he can order his attorney general to drop everything. Then he can appoint Aileen Cannon to the Supreme Court.
Correct.
And although it seems like that Jack Smith won today because she didn't boot the entire Espionage Act claim, she postponed her decision. She denied it without prejudice, meaning that Donald Trump can bring it up again in the middle of the trial. And if Judge Cannon agrees in the middle of the trial, then double jeopardy attaches, and Jack Smith won't be able to appeal it to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. And then Jack Smith is done on that claim. So it's a temporary victory, a victory for now.
And exactly. And that's why I called it auditions. Mr. Hur and Ms. Cannon and may see themselves as Justice Hur and Justice Cannon when Clarence Thomas and Alito predictably resign if a Republican becomes president. That's just me. I'm not putting that on either of you. Let me read the letter from Donald Trump's lawyers to Congress. This was dated April 26, 2023. They said this: "We have seen absolutely no indication that President Trump knowingly possessed any of the marked documents or willfully broke any laws. Rather, all indications are that the presence of marked documents at Mar-a-Lago was the result of haphazard records keeping and packing by White House staff and GSA, so blaming them. The applicable criminal statute prohibits willful retention of national defense information, not mere possession. To prove willful retention, a prosecutor must first establish the possession was knowing." Now let's play Donald Trump talking about willful possession.
I can't imagine you ever saying, bring me some of the boxes that we brought back from the White House. I'd like to look at them. Did you ever do that?
I would have the right to do that. There's nothing wrong with it. I have the right to take stuff. I have the right to look at stuff. I took the documents. I'm allowed to. And by the way, they become automatically declassified when I took them. I don't know anything about it. All I know is this: everything I did was right.
Neil, that's why he's afraid of this case, because he's admitted he did it.
Yeah, and he hasn't been able to get his story straight with his lawyers, Joy. So, like, that's a really good illustration. His lawyers say, oh, there's no indication whatsoever that Trump willfully took the documents, and then he says it all over. I think even more damning for Joy is that, more damning for Trump, Joy, is that Trump was caught on audio tape basically bragging about having classified documents with a journalist and saying, well, you know, I've got these very highly classified documents and so on. I probably shouldn't show them to you, or some language like that. So, you know, that's why I agree. This case, it's in a way the strongest case just because it's so simple. I mean, anyone who's dealt with national security information, I was national security advisor at the Justice Department, knows this is the easiest case. You prosecute this stuff every day of every week. And it's not just that Trump took the documents, it's that he willfully retained them after the FBI, the National Archives, others said, hey, give it back. There are all sorts of shenanigans that happened, including, most tellingly, what employee number 5, who just went public on another network, said. I mean, the employee number 5 said, look, I was summoned to Mar-a-Lago and was told that I had to, you know, that I was there because we were trying to figure out whether the videotapes governing the storage room that oversaw the storage room would be erasable and how quickly they'd be erased. I mean, it sounded like a mob conversation. So Trump's charged not just with stealing the documents, he's charged with obstruction afterwards. And I think it's a damning case for him.
You mentioned him. Let's play him. His name is Brian Butler. He was employee number 5, as you so correctly said, Neil. Let's play him. And this is him talking about actually moving the boxes which contain national security secrets. Here he is.
So I left Mar-a-Lago. I texted him, hey, I'm on my way. He followed me. He pulled out and got behind me. We got to the airport. I ended up loading all the luggage I had, and he had a bunch of boxes.
You noticed that he had boxes?
Oh, yeah. They were the boxes that were in the indictment, the white banker's boxes. That's what I remember loading. And
did you have any idea at the time that there was potentially U.S. national security secrets in those boxes?
No clue.
One of the things, Dave, that I think we should note here is that one of the reasons he says that he did that interview on CNN is that Judge Aileen Cannon allowed the release of information about who the witnesses would be, which puts them in danger. It puts them in jeopardy of death threats at all, what you get whenever you talk about Donald Trump. And so he came forward on his own. But what he said is absolutely damning. He was one of the people not only moving the boxes, but as Neil said, he was one of the people who was talked to about hiding the security camera footage.
Yeah, it is pretty damning in itself that he was worried that the federal judge in this case, Aileen Cannon, would release his name and information, that he had to go forward on his own terms and get his information out there, let he be attacked by the MAGA world. So that's troubling in itself. But it's also troubling by the fact that Trump interprets the Presidential Records Act as meaning that he can take whatever he wants. He turns the whole act on its head. The act was established after Watergate to ensure that government records are owned by the people and the archives, not the president. So he can no more take government records and classified documents than he could take Air Force One or rent out the Lincoln bedroom on Airbnb. He can do none of these things. And the fact that Trump shows up himself to these hearings tells you how important he thinks this is and how he thinks perhaps he can get one over on Judge Cannon by reminding her perhaps that he's the one who appointed her.
Please don't threaten him with a good time. He might just actually try to take Air Force One if you say that and turn it into one of his failed private airlines. To you, Neil, let's go on the other side of this, because you do have another case that does seem like it is sort of proceeding along, and that is DA Alvin Bragg's case. Alvin Bragg now has suggested a delay. It's like this guy's got to be the luckiest dude in the world, Donald Trump. Bragg's court filing indicates that Trump's legal team ought a delay of 90 days this month, get a delay of 90 days after receiving 73,000 pages of records from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan. On Wednesday, the filing said federal prosecutors produced approximately 31,000 pages of additional records and represented that there will be another production of documents by next week. This trial was supposed to start March 25th. Can you explain why so late in delivering those documents? Doesn't everyone understand that there's a calendar and we need to get one of these trials at least done before the election?
No, can't do it. I can explain a lot of things, Joy. I cannot explain this. This whole Southern District of New York investigation into Trump and Michael Cohen has been the gift that keeps on giving to Donald Trump. So first, this office didn't prosecute Donald Trump and only prosecuted Michael Cohen back when Trump was president. We know what that was about. But once Trump was out and Biden was president, this office still didn't prosecute him. And now this office has evidently delayed providing documents to Trump for some period of time, leading to this last-minute extension. Now, to be on the other side, the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg in his filing today said this is Trump's fault, that basically they requested documents from the U.S. Attorney's Office, got a whole bunch of documents that they turned over to Trump on June 8th of 2023, and that it was Trump's lawyers in January of 24, just recently, who sought extra documents. And so they're putting it on them. But, it sure seems like, maybe both of these actors are to blame, both the Southern District and Trump. I don't know. But the result is, and I think we're all antsy, we want, the American public wants to know what the heck happened. Looks like Donald Trump got a really serious campaign finance contribution that may have swung the election for him, and that it was illegal every day of the week. And so that deserves to be looked at.
At least something deserves to be looked at, right? I mean, I think the American people deserve to know whether this man is a felon on any of these. Now it's 88 charges left before the election. It is stunning to me, and I'm sure stunning to you both as legal professionals, that it appears that he is so far getting away with all of it, and not having a trial is the same, essentially, as getting away with it. If you never have a trial, you can never be a convict. Stunning stuff. Neil Katyal, Dave Ehrenberg. What a world.